Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Bob Mendelsohn, and this is the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Today you will meet Tony Mantor from Nashville, Tennessee, a singer, producer, songwriter, and philanthropist whose latest foray into compassion involves autism. We'll talk about music and autism and much more. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining me for this Bob's Your Uncle podcast, Season 3, Episode 20. Of note, the opinions are strictly my own and those of my guests. I hope you like listening to Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor. It's one of my favorites. You can now find us and comment to us wherever you get your podcasts. Tell us what matters to you, what triggers your joy, what bothers you in the world. Let us know. We'll see where the Spirit leads us. Whether you're at home, online, on the road with me in your headset at the gym, or out for your evening constitutional, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we will be. Thanks for being with us these 18 minutes.
But I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
On this date in history, the 25th of April, in 1915, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, called ANZAC, landed at Gallipoli in western Turkey during the Dardanelles campaign of World War I. And that's why today is officially Anzac Day in each of our countries. In 1901, New York became the first United States state to mandate license plates when Governor Benjamin Odell Jr. signed a law ordering automobiles and motorcycles to display the separate initials of the owner's name placed upon the back thereof in a conspicuous place. And in 1792, the first guillotine was erected on the Place de Grève in Paris to execute a highwayman. And that's the historical marker of the week. Today, I will introduce you to Tony Mantor, although some of you might know him by reputation already. I've visited Nashville many times, as I have two daughters who live there with their families, and Tony also lives there. Tony Mantor, thanks for joining me on the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Are you joining me today from Nashville?
Yeah. I live just north of Nashville, about 20 minutes north, in a little community that we can just jump on the interstate and just go back and forth and do whatever business we need to do, but yet still have the country feel.
You grew up in Maine and went to college in Boston, but you moved to Tennessee later. What prompted that move?
Well, I started learning and getting into music when I was just 8 years old. My mother had an old beat up piano that was in the living room, and I'd go over and pound on it. And so she saw that I had an interest, so she said that let's get it fixed up, get new ivories, get it tuned up, and let's see if you got any talent. And I went to a piano teacher, and she taught me a lot, and I was classically trained with her. And then I just grew into it, just had a love for music, and from there it just kept expanding and growing.
Do people in Nashville think you're a local yet?
Well, I've been here 30 years, so I've pretty well developed to where people recognize that I'm what they call a damn Yankee. I'm the one that stayed.
What would you say is the most difficult part of the music industry for you? Is it production, promotion? Is it the people?
Well, it's changed. I'm part of a documentary that's being filmed about Nashville and how it's changed over the last 20 years. And I get that question asked quite a bit. What has changed? Because if you ever came to Nashville in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you would many people would come in, they'd walk Music Row and go from building to building and work with independents and sometimes major labels and major independents, and it was just such a community of just good and bad. I mean, it had people in there that would rip you off just as quick as you look at them, and then you had some very honest people that would help you and develop you. Now you go into Nashville and it's just really crazy. A lot of the studios that I mean, there's a studio that Paul McCartney recorded in. They tore it down and put a condo there. You've got a lot of things like that that's happened in Nashville. So it's changed dramatically just from the physical existence of flying over, driving into it, and seeing the buildings that used to be there that aren't there. So that's changed. And then, Kuss, we've evolved from 2-inch tape, recording analog to now digital, and so that's changed the dynamic of it. And then you get into probably the worst thing that's happened is streaming. As much as people think it's just this awesome thing, we can go on and get the music and get it whatever we want. And that's a nice thing to be able to go on iTunes or whatever and get a song that we used to listen to 50 years ago or 40 years ago, whatever the time frame may be. That's great. But the problem there is you get now you've got Spotify and streaming like that, where I call it rent a song. They can take and pay their $9.95 a month, but they never buy them. So when they're streaming them, the songwriter gets a fraction of a penny for every time that song is streamed. Whereas before, if they went and bought the single or whatever, they'd make themselves, close to 10 cents every time the single was bought. So now, because they can do that, they're not making the money that they used to. So that's changed the dynamic of songwriting so drastically. The only people that are really making the money off songwriters, if they're lucky enough to get a song on a major artist that tours and sells their merchandise and CDs, and then that's like it used to be. But with the smaller artists, the ones that don't get out there and travel that much or don't get a chance to perform that much, it's really hurt them a lot.
Thank you. You wrote and performed a song a couple of years ago that rose high on the charts named Why Not Me? What was the original theme of that song?
Well, I didn't write it. I wish I had. It's a great song.
Sorry.
That's all right. A friend of mine, Dennis Welch, had he and another guy had co-written a song that I produced on a singer I was working with several years prior to that. And he sent me this song, and he goes, I want you to hear this song. I think it's one of the better songs I've written. And I heard it, and I'm going, whoa, this is me. It's about never giving up on your dreams. It's positive, song. It doesn't matter when you do it, only matters that you do. So I told him, I said, look, I'm not gonna make you $1 million, but I'm definitely gonna take and put a song out there and a CD out there. And if it sells 100 or 1,000, whatever it sells, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it for enjoyment. I'm not doing it to try and have the biggest song out there around the world. And so we wound up doing I wound up doing what I call the pop version of it, but I added a steel in it just to give it a little texture like the Eagles used to do, and all my friends that promote songs and work in the music say, oh man, it's country. And I'm going, okay, I don't think it is, but if you want to call it country, then it's country. I had to do something to bring attention to people that maybe needed to have a pat on the back. And at that particular time, I used that song with that production to kind of pat our first responders on the back for everything they do for us.
But now the song seems to have morphed a bit and relates to autism. Did I get that right?
I had a lady call me and she says, I really love what you did for Why Not Me. Would you do that for us? So I said, so my first question is, okay, who is us? And she's a speech therapist for autistic children. So I had to really think about it because I hadn't really thought about doing something just for charity, just for out there. I had to, how am I going to approach this? It's a different way of looking at things. Would it confuse people? So I told him, I said, if I'm going to do this, I've got to re-record it and give it more of an adult contemporary pop version. So that way is two different styles of music, but yet the same song. And then I decided that I wanted to help. And so I got people that work in the autistic community here in Nashville, and I asked them. I said, do you have people that like to be in a music video? And we'll take and put their pictures in it and do it things and really try and build up and bring some attention to it. So we did. And I mean, it has just kept growing and growing and growing. That led me to starting my own podcast, and I'm starting I'm starting my next phase of my Why Not Me project. So Why Not Me Nashville, kind of pays tribute to and is dedicated to the autistic community in Nashville. And now because I'm getting so much so many people calling me from around the world, I decided to create Why Not Me the World. So I'm starting on a video right now, and I've got people from all over the world that are going to be part of this. And hopefully sometime next month I'll have it finished to where I can debut it. And then I'm going to start Why Not Me the World podcast. And I'm going to make a kind of a talk and entertainment where we focus on autism and people that work with people that are autistic, some autistic people themselves that can tell their stories, but yet still every now and then bring in a celebrity that might just talk about positivity and the good in the world. So I'm going to try and blend that together. And the biggest thing that I want to do here when I'm dealing with the autistic end of it is get the stories out there, because the one thing that I've found that's common with everybody that I talk with is they want to tell me their story. I went through that. I can relate to that. And then hopefully, they'll realize that they're not alone in this and we're all together.
That is probably the most important part of storytelling, is connection and belonging. And as the world gets bigger with 7 billion people, all
Right.
just numbers, and your social security, or here in Australia, the tax file number, that's all you are. You
Right.
report. You're not a person unless
Right.
somebody hears you and unless you hear somebody. That sense
Right.
of belonging is massive. So I applaud you. Let me ask a couple more things, a little more personal. Do you need a cup of coffee before your day can actually get going?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. So, I mean, there's several places in Nashville that are great, but I just kind of go with the flow because I'm not a Starbucks type person. I'm not one of those people that just love my coffee. If you gave me a choice between a coffee and orange juice, I'll take the orange juice every day.
I'm with you, brother. Let me give you some quick rapid fire choices. Tennessee Titans or New England Patriots?
All the Pats. I'm from New England, so I got to stick with my Pats.
History matters. Flute or violin?
Uh, wow, that's a tough one. I love both. I've got violin in my Why Not Me, but I've also, if anybody goes to my and listens to my music and gets my CD or whatever, I've got a flute in that as well. So I love both. I mean, it's hard to pick.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs. I'm a dog guy.
Photos of family or photos of nature?
Family. Family's first. Always got to be family first.
Thanks. That was fun. When you sit down to listen to music after a few days in the studio, when you're at home, your dinner and dishes are all settled and put away, what do you choose to listen to yourself?
I listen to all styles of music, but my favorite era is 70s on 7 Sirius XM.
Love it. MP3 or vinyl, or do you even still have cassettes?
Now I've got some cassettes, but vinyl, you can't beat that needle on that vinyl.
I love it. I was a DJ back in
Yeah.
1969. I get it. Look, thanks, Tony, for taking time today to speak with me. Is there anything else you want to share with the ever-increasing Bob's Your Uncle podcast audience?
Well, just check me out on my TonyMantor.com. They can reach me at any of my social medias at Tony Mantor, and they can, of course, check me out on YouTube, Tony Mantor. But the biggest thing I ask them is join me in supporting the people that need our help on a daily basis. So I'm just trying to create a huge platform, an army, so to speak, of people that are willing to help others to bring a better understanding and tear down some of these walls, so that we can get along better in this world.
Great aspiration. I'm with you, my friend. Thanks, Tony. I'll put the information about TonyMantor.com in the notes on the podcast so people can find you more easily. And I wish you God's best. It's a joy to talk to you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And also, you're down in Australia, right? You said?
Yes.
If you know anyone that's got someone that would like to be in my video, have them contact me, because I would love to have a representation from Australia in there as well.
Beautiful. The world is more than the Northern Hemisphere.
Absolutely. I've got people all around the world that are wanting to be on my podcast, that are wanting to be in this video. So I'm trying to be super inclusive with everybody anywhere that I can get.
That's great. Thank you. Don't forget to follow this podcast on your app. Thanks. Every week here on the podcast, we read from the #1 bestseller of all time. And again, today is no exception. From 1 Chronicles chapter 15, then David spoke to the chiefs of the Levites to appoint their relatives, the singers, with instruments of music, harps, lyres, loud-sounding cymbals, to raise sounds of joy. What do you think about what we talked about today? Why don't you write me, Bob Mendo at AOL.com, and let's share together about autism or about music, even Nashville or the New England Patriots. Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope that you'll come back next Tuesday as we share together with a new guest as May begins. Until then, from me, Bob Mendelsohn, when things seem bleak or uncertain, look up to God. He's in his heaven. And Bob's your uncle. Shalom from Sydney.